We're like way off topic now, so let's just keep going down that route. What is your thought on like this general direction we're going with, like LLMs and AI, whatever term that you want to use for it, whatever you call it, this is the route we're going down. There is clearly these big data systems that are sort of displacing a lot of, not even, we're not even just going to talk about the internet, not even talk about jobs, but displacing a lot of internet content, right? Have you ever seen the chart of Stack Overflow usage as like ChatGPT came in? Because it's going like it just plummets into the ground, and Stack Overflow is basically dead at this point. If you go to the site, a lot of the nuances are just AI generated, and most people aren't even asking questions there because you can now get basically the level of response you would get from one of these systems.
Yeah. I will admit that for several reasons, and one of them being that I tend to be the kind of person who likes to get really good knowledge and control over what I'm doing. I haven't ended up using LLMs very much in anything that I do. Um, but I do see the usefulness of them, and I do think that it's something that should be embraced as a tool that you can have in your tool set and make the best out of. Uh, the reason I don't use them as much is because I uh, think that if I'm able to solve these complex problems myself, without relying too much on them, or at all right now, then I should be able to help my customers better at KDAB where I work at. Um, uh, but yeah, overall thoughts on LLMs, machine learning, and these things. I am I'm more concerned about the economics problems that arise by having these technologies around,
Mm-hmm.
because uh, a lot of the uh, things that they're being used for, um, essentially they're being trained to generate anything, images and videos and stuff. Uh, all of this is done based on online content.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a bit concerned that by making some of these resources very accessible to everyone,
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, we might be devaluating the the worth of the people who make the art and the people who are making gathering all of this content.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So a lot of times in the tech industry, we like to focus on using tech to solve problems,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes uh, there's a better way to tackle the problem. And in this case, I think that to provide better solutions, we have to also think about economics and try to see what areas is there like an actual need for something to exist,
Mm-hmm.
and then try to focus on that when it comes to developing these models. For example, this is one that I have in mind, and one that I've had in my board of ideas, crazy things to make, for quite some time, and I just never get around to doing it. But I would like to see, for example, a series of models that can combine uh, translation between speech and sign language. So I could
Mm-hmm.
suddenly be looking at you, and you are talking to me in sign language, and we are I don't know, saying some things. My sign language is super rusty. My American sign language is super rusty right now,
Mm-hmm.
but I could see you and then hear you in my ears, and then I can reply to you in speech, and this model could using one of the fancy glasses like the Snap one, and the Meta one that they just showcased and they probably won't be released for a few years.
Mhm.
Using one of those, the other person could actually see an overlay of your arms in sign language, doing the translation.
Mhm.
Um, and that is a use case that I would love to see. And yeah, while I was doing the iCorps program for QPrompt, I also learned that one of the tasks, probably the only tasks, the only task that has to do with software to any extent that people are really frustrated with is video editing.
Mhm.
Unlike me, most people don't like video editing. It's tedious work, and and if there were more AI assisting tools that could make that job a little bit easier, I
Mhm.
think that's something that will be very welcome.
Mhm.
And I think Adobe knows that, so they're aiming in that direction.
Oh, I have no doubt they're trying to do that with like Premiere and things like that, because I know they're already adopting a lot of things with the Photoshop side, right? But images are an easier problem to solve because it's easy to understand what people might want from an AI assisted tool. You know, like AI background removal, AI color balance. Like these things make sense when it comes to video. Obviously, like AI background removal also makes sense in a video context as well, but I'm sure there's a lot of things that people have thought about, but maybe are not, I guess, computationally reasonable to do at this point, at least doing like locally on your system, that I'd be curious to see what people can come up with in this space, because I've not really thought deeply enough about the problem to really even consider what I might want to have outside of, the basic stuff like background noise removal and things like that. But I don't do a ton of complex editing anyway, so for me it's probably not something I would heavily consider. I think spaces where LLMs are doing like really good work are in like in medical digital imaging. I'm seeing a lot of interest in using this tooling for like cancer detection, or not just detection by itself, but as like an assistant tool with a doctor. So the doctor can analyze an X-ray or some cut they have, and you can then also have this system that does a secondary analysis that might spot something that maybe the doctor had missed, or maybe gives them an idea that they can further analyze and have other people look at as well. In this space, I think it's pretty hard to argue against it being a useful tool. And once it gets better and better and better, I don't think there's anyone that's would say, oh, I don't want the AI tool to analyze my X-ray to see if there's something there, if it has maybe a higher detection rate than a actual doctor would have. And there's also cases in like with legal cases as well, where there is just a lot of legal code to go through, where it might not, obviously lawyers manage to do it, and why they get paid so much money to do so, but there might be like weird esoteric cases and interpretations of law that you might not initially consider. And in cases like this, I also see a lot of value. Where I don't see as much value coming from is a lot of what you're seeing in like interest in the programming space and like the marketing space and things like this. It is basically just taking the human work out of the equation, right? It's replacing the junior developers, replacing the copy paste marketing where, you have these marketing pieces where you're like, I can see that your marketing department are not the most creative people, right? And in cases like this, or like, there's that corporate art style where they have like the really long bodies and the tiny heads, like replacing like art like that. That's what I'm seeing a lot of the interest right now in it being used for. But I am very much in agreement with a lot of people that we are in an AI bubble right now. And it's kind of like the dot-com bubble where you had this time where people were just putting .com in everything. You have just let's name a town.com. Let's talk about how we're going to use the internet with every little thing. And you're seeing that right now with AI as well, where it's like Taco Bell puts AI in their financial report. It's like, what are you doing with it? I don't know, just put it in there. And for a while, that was just being used as a way to raise up company values. And I think what we're going to see happen is like what you saw happen with the dot-com bubble, where companies like Amazon lost like 90% of their value. But Amazon is a real business. Amazon has a purpose. It just at the time was severely overvalued. And I feel like a lot of what we're seeing now is going to happen. Nvidia right now, I believe, is the most valuable company in the world, which is crazy, and most of it's being driven by AI. But Nvidia is a real company, right? They make it a real product that people want. It's just, I don't think they're going to stay there much longer if we keep going down this route of put AI into everything. There's going to come a point where that investor interest dries up, and the next big exciting thing comes along.